So imagine a company that basically relies on like 20 to 30 violent hailstorms a year just to survive.
Yeah, which sounds completely wild when you first hear it.
Right. It really does. But we are talking about a 75-year-old business here.
Yeah.
They handle millions in revenue. They have this absolutely pristine reputation in their community. And yet, if you pull out your phone right now and search for them online, they are practically invisible.
Which is just wild in today's market.
Completely. So welcome to the deep dive. We have a really fascinating mission for you today. We are looking at a stack of comprehensive case study reports and prominently featuring this very revealing digital marketing audit from TEXSEON Marketing. Our focus is entirely on this one single local business, Crawford Roofing, Inc., down in Pampa, Texas.
Yeah, and it serves as a really remarkable look under the hood of, a true legacy company, because this isn't just a story about replacing asphalt shingles.
Right. No, it's way bigger than that.
Exactly. We are really looking at a microeconomic case study here. It's about that tension between traditional handshake reliability and modern digital discoverability. It highlights what happens when the physical world a business has totally mastered suddenly collides with a digital world that they have, honestly, largely ignored.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because we need to understand how a multi-generational traditional trades business actually survives the literal and economic harsh elements of the Texas Panhandle.
And it is harsh out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And beyond just survival, we really want to explore the blueprint for modernizing a legacy operation for the digital age, without losing its local soul. So I want to set the stakes for you as you listen.
Lay it out.
Imagine roots tracing all the way back to 1936. They have maintained an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau since 1997.
Wow.
Right? But that massive blind spot online we mentioned, it is a ticking clock.
Which, in today's landscape is an incredibly dangerous place to be. Let's look at the foundation that makes Crawford Roofing such a staple in the first place.
Yeah, let's get into the core facts.
So the facts are honestly impressive. They have been operating locally under their current structure since 1958.
That's a long time.
It's generations. And they are an absolute fixture in Pampa, which is this tight-knit town of about 17,000 people. The company's led by Bob E. Crawford Jr., he's around 74 years old, and he is supported by a really deep family bench taking on various roles.
Right, so you've got Tim, David, Shayla.
Exactly. And they don't just do roofs. They handle residential and commercial roofing, siding, windows, and seamless gutters. It's, a full exterior operation.
So you had this immovable 75-year-old object facing the unstoppable force of panhandle weather.
Ha! That's one way to put it.
But really, how exactly does a business build that level of physical resilience?
Well, you have to understand the environment they operate in. The Texas Panhandle is a crucible. You have high winds that can literally peel back a poorly installed roof in minutes. Plus these massive extreme temperature fluctuations. In fact, a staggering 60% of Crawford's revenue is driven by storm damage alone.
60%?
Yeah, just from storms. So their tagline, "When the storm hits, we've got your back," it's not just a clever piece of marketing copy.
Right, it's not just some slogan they paid an agency for.
Exactly. It is their operational reality. It's a promise they are literally forced to deliver on over and over again, basically whenever the sirens go off.
Crawford Roofing is like an old oak tree in the middle of the Panhandle.
I like that.
Think about it. The incredibly violent storms that tear off the shingles are the exact same storms that have forced this business to grow such deep, unshakable roots in the community. You just cannot fake that kind of history. They prove their worth when the weather is at its absolute worst.
Yeah, and they reinforce those roots during the calm between the storms, too. They weave themselves right into the fabric of the town. They sponsor the curly fries at the local high school football games.
Ah, the curly fries. I love that.
Right. And they buy the breast cancer awareness shirts for the Lady Harvester volleyball team. So that deep community involvement, when you combine it with decades of reliable repair work, is why they boast an 80% referral rate.
Which introduces a really fascinating causal problem, actually. Because of that 80% word-of-mouth referral rate, they've always had enough work. They've always just had their neighbors calling them.
Yeah, the phone just naturally rang.
Exactly. And that success bred a kind of digital complacency. They never actually had to build a website or optimize a search profile to survive.
Because when your neighbors are always recommending you at a backyard barbecue, you simply don't worry about Google.
Right.
But, and this is the kicker, the TEXSEON marketing audit reveals how that lack of adaptation leaves them highly vulnerable today. despite their incredible reputation. I mean, zero unresolved BBB complaints since 1997.
Which is unheard of in roofing, by the way.
Totally unheard of. But despite that, their digital footprint is currently a massive liability. Let's look at the actual mechanics of local search to understand why. Search algorithms use something called NAP consistency to verify that a business is legitimate.
Okay, NAP consistency.
Yeah, NAP stands for name, address, and phone number.
Let me guess. After 75 years of evolving and changing hands, their digital paperwork is a bit messy.
Messy is a total understatement. Crawford is operating online under two distinct names right now. They've got Crawford Roofing, Inc. and Crawford Exteriors, Inc. floating around.
Oh, that's bad.
And it gets worse with the physical location. They have online listings pointing to 805 South Kyler Street and entirely different directories pointing to 1133 North Price Road.
Okay, think about that from the perspective of the algorithm for a second. Google acts like a highly efficient, incredibly literal mail carrier.
Right.
So if a house has two different street numbers painted on the curb and two different family names on the mailbox, the mail carrier just gets confused and decides not to deliver the mail there at all. And in this case, the mail is potential customers.
That analogy perfectly captures the mechanism, because Google will actively penalize their search ranking because it cannot confidently verify who or where they actually are. Furthermore, their Google business profile only has about 4 to 7 reviews.
4 to 7 reviews for a 75-year-old business.
Yeah, and they average 4.3 stars, which is fine, but local competitors have dozens, sometimes hundreds of reviews.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting, and let me push back on this a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
If 80% of their business come from local referrals, and they've survived for almost 7 decades in Pampa doing exactly what they're doing, does a small-town roofer actually need a massive digital footprint? I mean, if they have a lean staff, aren't they already getting all the business they can handle through the grapevine?
It is a completely fair question, and honestly, it is the primary objection a lot of legacy business owners raise when you talk to them. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the vulnerability isn't about the sunny days. It is about the inevitable massive Panhandle hailstorm. When that hits, local capacity is immediately overwhelmed.
Because everyone in a 10-mile radius suddenly needs a roof inspector on the exact same afternoon.
Exactly. And the grapevine simply cannot handle that volume of panic.
Oh, I see.
And, nature abhors a vacuum. When local supply can't meet demand, massive out-of-town storm chaser chains like Baker Roofing from Amarillo, for example, they just flood the Pampa market.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and these regional chains have huge marketing budgets. They have perfectly optimized websites. When frantic homeowners pull out their phones and search roof repair near me, Google doesn't know about the high school curly fries or the volleyball shirts.
Right. Google doesn't care who sponsored the football team.
Exactly. Google only knows about NAP consistency and review volume.
So if Crawford isn't highly visible online right in that critical moment of panic, they lose local market share to outsiders. They bleed revenue to companies that have zero ties to the community simply because the outsider had a better search engine ranking.
Yes. They have to digitize simply to defend their home turf against those regional chains. It's not about chasing vanity metrics, It is a defensive strategy to ensure the people in their town can actually find them when the panic sets in.
Man, that makes a lot of sense. But that brings up a huge logistical hurdle.
Yeah.
How does a small legacy team, guys who are experts at flashing asphalt shingles and seamless gutters, not software engineering, how do they actually pull off a modern marketing strategy?
Right. It's a completely different skill set.
Yeah, and they do not have a massive corporate budget to just throw at a Madison Avenue ad agency.
And this is where the TEXSEON playbook becomes incredibly valuable. It leverages specialized, low-cost technology to bridge that gap efficiently. You really do not need a huge budget if you understand the mechanisms of the right tools.
So what's step 1?
Well, first, the audit recommends an automated AI-powered review generation system.
Because right now, asking for a review requires, a tired foreman to remember to ask a stressed homeowner to pull out their phone, log into Google, and type out a paragraph. The friction is just too high.
The friction is the entire bottleneck. People will refer friends at a diner, sure, but they rarely go out of their way to log on to Google Maps unless they are angry.
True.
So an AI-powered system integrates directly with their existing invoicing software. The moment a job is marked complete, the system automatically sends a personalized text or email to the customer.
Okay, that's smart.
Yeah, it thanks them, perhaps mentions the specific service provided, and includes a direct one-click link to leave a Google review.
So it takes that existing 80% referral-based people who already love the work and systematically converts that invisible goodwill into a visible digital scoreboard.
Yeah.
You basically bypass human forgetfulness entirely.
Exactly. And the second part of the strategy involves using AI language models like Gemini to rapidly turn their hidden legacy into online authority.
How does that work?
Well, Crawford has executed massive, highly impressive commercial projects over the decades. We are talking about extensive work at Camp Lejeune and large-scale projects for the Mineral Wells School District.
Oh, wow. Those are monumental trust signals. I mean, if you can handle the logistics and compliance of a military base or a school district, a residential roof is a walk in the park.
Huge trust signals. But right now, the details of those projects are likely sitting in a dusty filing cabinet somewhere, totally invisible to search engine web crawlers.
That's such a waste.
Right. The playbook suggests feeding the raw, basic facts of those projects, the square footage, the materials used, the weather challenges overcome, into an AI tool.
Let's demystify that for a second. When we say SEO optimized, we mean making sure Google search bots, which are essentially blind librarians scanning billions of pages, can instantly recognize what a page is about.
Right.
So the AI doesn't just write a nice story, right? It strategically embeds local keywords like Pampa commercial roofing contractor and formats the HTML headers so those blind librarians immediately categorize Crawford as the local authority.
Yes, and what's fascinating here is that Crawford does not need to invent a brand narrative.
No, they already have one.
Exactly. We see countless startups spend millions trying to manufacture a story that feels authentic. Crawford already possesses the authentic story. They have lived it since 1958. They simply need AI to structure and digitize it so the algorithms can actually read it.
That is such a good point. Now, what about the website itself? Because the audit mentioned the whole Crawford Roofing versus Crawford Exteriors confusion earlier. How do they resolve that digital identity crisis?
The solution is a ruthless consolidation. They need to build one single high-converting, mobile responsive website. But the underlying philosophy TEXSEON highlights for this new digital storefront is what they call the YSIWG strategy.
WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get.
Exactly. What you see is what you get.
Which is vital because the trades industry unfortunately suffers from a massive trust deficit. I mean, homeowners are terrified of hidden fees or storm chasers taking a hefty deposit and just disappearing in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that happens a lot. So Crawford's digital ads and website must make transparency their absolute centerpiece to combat that industry-wide fear. We're talking upfront pricing structures, crystal clear timelines, warranties spelled out in plain English rather than, dense legal jargon.
Make it simple.
Right. Their digital presence needs to feel as honest, straightforward, and binding as a physical handshake from Bob Crawford himself.
Okay, let's play this out to its logical conclusion. Let's say Crawford executes this playbook flawlessly. The AI review system churns out hundreds of 5-star ratings. The website is consolidated. The SEO strategies bring them to the absolute top of the search results.
Okay, picture perfect so far.
Right. And then a massive hailstorm hits the Panhandle, and suddenly their phone is ringing off the hook, generating demand far beyond their usual word-of-mouth capacity. That actually triggers a whole new and arguably much more dangerous problem.
Yeah, it really does. It triggers severe operational bottlenecking. Because marketing a promise you cannot operationalize is vastly worse than having no marketing at all. It will actively destroy a 75-year reputation in a single chaotic storm season.
Wow, just one season.
Oh, absolutely. Because if your website boldly claims, "We've got your back," and a homeowner calls you 3 times without a response, those 5-star reviews will be buried under 1-star reviews literally overnight.
Looking at the data, I would deduce that a crew this lean, maybe 4 to 10 people, and a fleet of 9 trucks, probably struggles immensely with the phone lines when a massive storm hits. Our communication drops their main vulnerability here.
You are hitting on the exact core vulnerability identified in the SWOT analysis: the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. When you analyze their customer feedback, the vast majority of reviews rave about their meticulous cleanups, their professionalism, and how deftly they handle stubborn insurance adjusters.
They're great at the actual job.
Exactly. But the negative reviews, the very few that exist, cluster specifically around communication drop-offs and rushed finishing details, like a gutter being installed at a slightly incorrect angle.
Which makes total sense, when the dispatch phones are ringing nonstop. A small team running a manual operation simply cannot catch every call or track every voicemail.
It's physically impossible.
And when the physical crews are rushed, trying to race to the next damaged house before it rains again, that is exactly when a gutter pitch gets miscalculated. So how do they fix the operational mechanisms to safely match the new marketing volume?
The foundational step is implementing a CRM, a customer relationship management system.
Go ahead.
For a company attempting to scale, a CRM is non-negotiable. Think of it as a digital central nervous system for the business.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, instead of a chaotic whiteboard or a stack of sticky notes that can get lost, a CRM ensures that every single lead, every inbound call, and every email is automatically logged, tagged, and queued for follow-up.
It creates a fail-safe. You basically eliminate the dropped calls because the software won't let you forget a customer.
Exactly. And beyond fixing the bottlenecks, modernizing operations opens up massive new opportunities to increase revenue without necessarily taking on more individual jobs.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Well, they can start bundling services. Offering a roof replacement alongside solar panel integration is incredibly lucrative in Texas right now.
Right, big market for solar.
Huge. There's also the potential to navigate and secure complex FEMA grants for storm restoration, which, requires the kind of rigorous documentation a CRM provides.
Man, all of this technology sounds incredible for scaling, but there is a massive elephant in the room here. We established earlier that Bobby Crawford Jr. is around 74 years old. You have this deep family bench waiting in the wings, Tim, David, Shayla. How does a legacy business navigate handing the reins over while simultaneously undergoing a massive digital transformation?
This raises an important question, perhaps the single most critical one for the company's long-term survival: succession planning.
Yeah.
Because all the automated texts, all the SEO optimization, and all the solar bundles in the world will not save the company if there isn't a deliberate strategic plan for who takes the helm when Bob eventually steps down.
Because it isn't just about who sits in the boss's chair. It is a profound cultural friction. You're asking a family to transition a company culture built on 1950s pen and paper, look you in the eye trust, into a 2020s digital trust framework.
Exactly.
That requires managing internal resistance just as much as managing external marketing.
The next generation has to champion these tools. Tim, David, and Shayla will be the ones relying on the CRM to track leads and using AI to manage reputation. The transition requires the current leadership to trust the technology and the incoming leadership to deeply respect the legacy that makes the technology worth deploying in the first place.
So what does this all mean for Crawford and really for any listener who deals with legacy systems in their own industry?
Yeah, it applies to so many fields.
Right. Think about your favorite local diner or your family mechanic or a specialized law firm that has been around for decades. If they introduce AI follow-up texts and complex CRM software and tiered premium service packages to scale up, how do they ensure they still feel like the local guys down the street rather than a faceless corporate machine?
That is the ultimate tightrope walk of modern business. The technology cannot be allowed to replace the human element. Its entire purpose is to protect and amplify it.
Say more about that.
Well, the efficiency gain from a CRM should give the roofing expert more time to physically stand in the yard and explain the damage to a worried homeowner, not less.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right. The automated review texts shouldn't sound like a generic robot. They should be crafted in the warm, direct voice of the company. It is really about deploying hypermodern tools to fiercely protect a traditional ethos.
To wrap this all up, Crawford Roofing serves as a masterclass in local resilience. They have already conquered the hardest part of commerce, surviving the brutal physical elements, doing genuinely great work, and earning the unshakable trust of their neighbors for 75 years.
Yeah, that physical foundation is an asset that most heavily funded Silicon Valley startups will just never achieve.
Never. So the next step for them is simply translating that physical, real-world trust into digital proof. They need to consolidate their fragmented branding, unleash AI-assisted content to tell their incredible history to the search algorithms, and lock in operational software to ensure they can flawlessly deliver when the Panhandle storms hit.
They must ensure that the digital reflection of Crawford Roofing is just as reliable and rock solid as the physical roofs they've been building since 1958.
Absolutely. Now, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something that builds on everything we've unpacked today.
Let's hear it.
We've spent this deep dive exploring how a traditional mom-and-pop business can defensively use AI tools to optimize their rich history, clean up their search results, and automate their customer service to survive. But as these advanced hyper-efficient AI marketing tools become cheap, ubiquitous, and available to every single local plumber, roofer, and electrician in America, we eventually lose the ability to tell the difference online between a genuine 75-year-old neighborhood staple and a brand new, perfectly AI-optimized startup that was literally born yesterday.
Wow. When everyone's digital storefront can be rendered totally flawless by an algorithm, how do we as consumers actually measure real trust?
How do you find the deep roots when everything on the surface looks perfectly artificially green? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the world of information around you, and we will catch you next time.